These look super fancy, but in fact they're very easy. All you need is some melted chocolate to dip a mini pretzel in. Yes, a mini pretzel. We're going to let that set and use it later. So we're going to pour some of this melted chocolate into a plastic cup. Maybe some of you have these lying around in your kitchen cupboards. So we're just going to gently turn the cup around to coat the entire inside with the melted chocolate. A slightly careful operation here, so take your time. Now once that's done, we pour away the excess chocolate back into the bowl. We can use that later. We're going to just swipe over the rim of the cup to make sure we get rid of any excess chocolate there and stick it in the freezer to chill for an hour. Now we have our chocolate cup. There you go. That was super easy, wasn't it? So that chocolate pretzel we made earlier is going to be the handle of our chocolate cup. Now we get some hot water and some coffee powder and mix it up. And then we're going to start dipping some ladies' fingers. That's right. I'm sure a lot of you have those around in your cupboards too. Those are going to go in the bottom of our chocolate cup, layered with mascarpone. We've put that in a piping bag to make it easy to fill our cup. So we're going to just keep layering the ladies' fingers, which have been dipped in that coffee mixture, and our mascarpone filling is going to be the final filling to fill our cup all the way to the top. And now it's time for a finishing touch. So why not sprinkle some cocoa powder on the top? You could do just a dash, or you could go crazy, whatever takes your fancy. You can be really creative with these cups. You can experiment with different toppings and different fillings, whatever your taste buds are needing. There we have it. Delicious. So let's try a similar recipe now using dark chocolate. Again, dipping our mini pretzel, let that set. And we're going to fill our plastic cup with the melted dark chocolate. A very careful operation, once again moving it around. Now, if you want to be really clever, you could mix all three types of chocolate together and form a marble effect. So you would end up with a marble mug, a marble chocolate mug. That's if you can't decide which one to have. So once that's chilled, we're going to stick on our pretzel handle by using a bit of melted dark chocolate there. Time for the filling. Hot water, chocolate sauce. Mix it together. And yes, we're going to dip our ladies' fingers. That will go in first. Now we're going to layer it. Now we're going to layer it with coffee mousse. Now, mousse, you can pre-buy it from the shop, but it's actually super easy to make. You just need a few basic ingredients that you generally have lying around, like whipped cream, eggs, sugar, some gelatin, and of course, in this case, some coffee. So we're going to put some caramel sauce on the top of that, a bit of sweetness with the bitterness of the coffee, and some coffee beans for our final touch. Look at that. It's like a mocha cappuccino in a chocolate cup. What's not to love? Right, time for some white chocolate. For those of you with a super sweet tooth, let's use melted white chocolate this time. Again, we're going to mould it into our plastic cup. So it does take a little bit of patience to do things like this, but really with delicate handling and a little bit of patience, it is very easy. Who would have thought? So our handle goes on, and now we're going to do the filling. The third and final filling is matcha green tea with a dash of milk. Mix that together, and yes, we're going to dunk our ladies' fingers. Ladies' fingers are the saviour of the day for these recipes. So those go in first, as usual. This time, we're going to layer it with vanilla flavoured mousse. Again, you can make it yourself quite easily, or buy it pre-made from the store. You can experiment. You can use cream. You can use different flavours. You can use fruit. Let's put a little bit of fruit on this. How about a raspberry? That rich redness against the creamy white cup. Absolutely gorgeous. So which one would you like? Chocolate, coffee, or matcha? Cheers! you need is 200 grams of butter, 100 grams of icing sugar and half a teaspoon of salt. Mix together in a mixing bowl. Add 2 egg yolks and 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Now it's time to add our flour, 300 grams of that, adding half first, whisking it in with an electric whisk. Then adding our second half, this time just gently mixing it with a spoon or a spatula to form our cookie dough. That cookie dough is going to go on a floured chopping board. We're going to squish it around a bit to firm it up in the flour and then flatten it out into a square shape and throw a bit more flour on top. Rolling it out into a thin layer, we're going to cut around our heart shape, a giant heart shape, using a pizza cutter. And why not have some mini hearts too for decorations? Using a heart cookie cutter, we're going to cut out several small hearts along the bottom. Remove the excess cookie dough. Now it's ready to go on our baking tray. Don't forget to put a layer of baking paper on there so it doesn't stick. Our little hearts alongside our big heart, and use a fork to prick little holes all over the surface of our large heart. And cook that at 160 degrees for 20 minutes. While that's cooking away, we get 30 grams of egg white and whisk it in a bowl. Add 100 grams of sugar, half at a time. An electric whisk is highly recommended for this part of the process as it makes things a lot quicker. We've got to whisk it a lot to get our beautiful meringue-like mixture. We're going to put that into 2 bowls, half-half, and add food colouring. We're adding pink food colouring, more in one than in the other, so that we get 2 different shades of pink. We're going to use this for our decorations later. We're going to put it into piping bags. So you can just use an ordinary food bag and stick a piping nozzle on the end of that if you cut the end off. That way it's much easier to disperse. Now we have a very special type of baking paper here. It actually has little circles marked out for us, so we can make sure that we get all our baby meringues the same size. But don't worry if you don't have that, an ordinary piece of baking paper will do. Stick those in the oven at 90 degrees for 1 hour. Meanwhile, let's decorate our little baby cookies using our pale pink and medium pink meringue. Now for our large cookie, we're going to cover it in buttercream icing. Again, you could use a food piping bag to put that all over the surface of your cookie and get another cookie and then layer it again, just like a cake. Now add our meringues and our royal icing cookies and our macaroons and some marshmallows. Why not some roses? A work of art. It's absolutely beautiful. In fact, it looks too good to eat. Well, almost. Add 120 grams of sugar and 60 millilitres of water to a pan. Put it on a heat and let it bubble away. Then add 200 grams of almonds. Stir those in until caramelised. Then remove off the heat and put in a blender. We're going to blend those right down to form a lovely base for our chocolate mousse cake. 50 grams of butter is added to that, and 40 grams of cocoa powder. We'll blend it once more before adding it to our cake tin, pushing it down, making sure it's a nice, firm, flat base for our cake. Next, we're going to add 200 millilitres of heavy cream, 50 millilitres of milk, and 50 grams of sugar to a pan. Heat it on the stove and stir it until fully combined. The next part is for our chocolate lovers. We're going to add 300 grams of dark chocolate to that and mix it until it's melted. Now 50 grams of butter. And there is our chocolate ganache, ready to pour over our almond butter base. Chocolicious, look at that. That's going to go in the refrigerator for 1 hour. And when it's ready, we'll take it out and sprinkle some cocoa powder over it for a finishing touch. We'll put a nice generous layer of cocoa powder on because it really does blend perfectly with the moist mousse and that dried cocoa powder together. It's as easy as that, folks. Now, who's for a slice? Delicious. Go on, why don't you have a go? Next, we're going to get a slice of white bread and cut out a circle shape with a cookie cutter. Remove the excess spread and put our circle aside. Now get 3 eggs and add 50 grams of sugar, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract and whisk away. Add half a tablespoon of cinnamon powder and 500 millilitres of milk to that. And there we have our dip for our white bread. We're going to just dip it in there a bit, let it soak it up. We're going to do this with a few white bread circles. Meanwhile, we'll get our mould and spray it lightly with cooking oil spray. And we're going to put our bread slices into the mould, squish them in there, and add a dollop of peanut butter in the middle of each one, covering each one over with another dipped circle of bread. Add cinnamon powder to some sugar, mix together, and sprinkle it on top for a nice final crisp. That goes in the oven at 180 degrees for 25 minutes. Now these will rise as they heat, as they cook, looking like little pies. And when you cut them open, you get a nice surprise. Gooey gorgeousness. Next, we get a plain croissant and cut it into slices. We're going to place each slice in a baking tray and add some chocolate chips onto that. You can add anything you like, but we're adding chocolate chips. 400 millilitres of heavy cream goes into a bowl with 200 millilitres of milk. That's going to be microwaved for 15 minutes. Then add 4 tablespoons of sugar, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract and 3 egg yolks. 100 grams of Nutella goes into that, or any chocolate spread will do. Mix that together nicely, and that's going to be poured over our croissant slices and chocolate chips. You can even experiment with your choice of ingredients depending on what you happen to have at home. Now, bake that at 180 degrees for 25 minutes. Now the croissants have soaked up all that lovely chocolate Nutella mixture, and we're going to sprinkle some icing sugar over the top. You can use cocoa powder as an alternative if you want it to be even more chocolatey, but whatever takes your fancy. Why not think of some other decorations to put over it too? We can slice this up into deliciously large servings, and it's been baked at a medium heat, so it's still very soft and gooey. Absolutely fantastic. There you go. Easy to make, 3 recipes. Bob's your uncle. First we get 120 grams of butter, add 250 millilitres of milk and the same in water. 20 grams of sugar to that and stir it whilst heating it on the stove. Stir till the butter has melted and the mixture starts to bubble away. Once it's bubbling, you can turn the heat off and add 180 grams of flour. Mix that in well. Keep stirring till it's completely combined together. When it's a dough-like mixture, we'll remove it from the stove and add our eggs. We're going to add 4 eggs to this, 1 at a time. This part is very important. We've got to mix it in very, very well because we don't want to get lumpy mixture later on. So we're going to add the eggs one by one, stirring each egg in very, very well. A little bit of patience is required for this, but the end result is well worth it. Now we're going to add our final egg and 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract with that. That gives our churros a lovely flavour. So now our choux pastry is ready. We're going to stick it in a piping bag. Or you can even use a food bag and just snip off the end. We're going to make semicircle shapes with this on our chopping board. So just slowly do your half circle to make our cup handles. Dabbing each one down with a little bit of water. Then we'll freeze those for 1 hour. Meanwhile, we're going to get a muffin mould tin and spray lightly with oil on the underside. Yes, the underside, you heard right. With our piping bag, we're going to pipe our choux pastry around the underside of each muffin hole, making a spiral shape all the way around and over the top. This is going to form our choux pastry cup. Do that with all of the muffin moulds. Then our handles are ready. We're going to stick those on the side, one by one. Very delicate operation. This is going to be frozen for 3 hours. Once it's frozen, we're going to deep fry it, very carefully putting it in the oil and pushing it underneath. Once it's golden brown coloured, we're going to remove it from our hot oil and place it on a griddle. Now this will help it to cool down quickly. Now get 250 grams of sugar and 1 tablespoon of cinnamon powder. Mix it together to make our cinnamon sugar. We're going to get each choux pastry cup one by one and coat the entire outside of the cup in our cinnamon sugar. Once we've done that, we can add our hot pouring chocolate into the middle of the cup. Brings a whole new definition to the term hot chocolate, doesn't it? Look at that. You can use any type of chocolate you like, and we're using dark chocolate. Add some mini marshmallows on top of that for a decoration. And there you have it, hot chocolate in a churro mug. Absolutely to die for. Oozy gorgeousness. Now we're going to make the same churro mixture again with butter, milk, and an equal amount of water and a little bit of sugar. Heat that on the stove and stir it in until the butter is melted. Just like before, we want to keep stirring it until the mixture is bubbling away. Then we can turn the heat off and add our flour, 180 grams as before. Stir that in. This does take a little bit of time, but like I said earlier, it's definitely worth it. When it's ready, we'll remove it from the stove and start once again to add our eggs. 4 eggs, one at a time, stirring them in. So we get a nice smooth dough. Gradually, churros were actually invented in Mexico, and they're very, very popular dessert in America. And you can experiment with these. You can add chocolate, marshmallows like we've done, or you can try all sorts of different things. Why not even peanut butter? Even churro tortilla chips. Why not? We're going to put that in a piping bag, as before. Now this one has a stripe shape on it. We're going to squirt it straight into our hot oil this time, snipping it off one at a time. So we've got these little mini churros cooking away in our hot oil. Make sure you just move them around a bit so that they cook evenly on each side. And once they are golden brown, we can remove them from the hot oil. Now if you have a slated spoon, that's the best thing. Make sure all the oil is dripping away. Put those on a plate. Again, we're going to make our cinnamon sugar. And this time we're going to pour it on top of our mini churros. Delicious, look at that. Now it's time to get your hands dirty. We're going to mix it all up, making sure they're all nicely coated in cinnamon sugar, just like sort of mini donuts. Just make sure they're not still hot when you do that. You don't want to burn your hands. Now we're going to get some chocolate chips. Sprinkle a nice healthy portion of those on, and some marshmallows. That's going to go in the oven at 150 degrees for just 3 minutes. We just want to brown the marshmallows, let them expand and melt a bit with the chocolate chips, but not to burn them. And there you have it. Delicious.